Okay, so it's 2 minutes after the hour, so we're going to get started now. So thank you very much for coming this evening. My name is Robert Doyle. I'm the high school principal. And also on this call this evening, leading the charge is Miss Bertram, our middle school principal, and then Miss Alma Kinder, who she's the host and running the slides and will be a huge part of the presentation as well. And she's our technology director at AISD. So normally Jennifer has this as at 2 for middle school, and this time it's moved to the eve endeavor just because of the nature of what families are facing, what students are doing, and what also the school is doing in terms of digital citizenship. And it's an important part about having parents as partners with hosting some of these events to give you some tidbits, a little bit more information, some clues about what the school is doing, some hints about what can be done at home to help you. And then also so that we can also hear some ideas about what it is that you do at home that you find successful, or maybe what you don't find successful. So it's a way of bringing parents together to share a few of their ideas and their experiences too. Now, some of this is going to be interactive. So there's a chat feature that's on here. And at the bottom of the screen, if you click on the 3 dots that are there where it says more, you'll see a chat feature there. And the first couple parts about the presentation are just some rhetorical questions, but we're also hoping that you reflect upon what it was like when you were a child as well and how things are a little bit different. So we'll go through just the first slide, please, Miss Annie. Okay, so just think, when you were a child, what did you do when you wanted to talk to friends or family? So if you can find that chat feature and the 3 little dots on the bottom right-hand corner where it says more, and you'll see a chat feature, just put in, when you were younger, what did you do when you wanted to talk to families or friends? What devices did you use, or what methods did you use? Just type in a little comment there, please. Okay, so you can see I even put in the comment there, I shouted out the back door because my friends were only a few houses away. They're sending letters, there's going over to people's homes, there's using that old-fashioned thing called the telephone that was attached to the wall. And so now talking with friends, of course, is completely different. All right, the next slide, Annie. What did you do when you didn't like someone? Maybe put that in the chat as well. What did you do when you didn't like someone? Okay, didn't sit next to them, stay away from them, ignored them. Okay, and now sometimes, of course, what younger people will do is that they'll send people messages to say, I don't like so-and-so, so that everyone else can hear it. Or on the playground, you might say it, but now it's actually in a text message or on a social media feed. Okay, and the next one, Annie? If you needed help with homework, what did you do? Yeah, ask mom or dad or look it up in the encyclopedia. We had the huge 26 volume of the encyclopedia that my parents invested in, and they would say, go look it up in the encyclopedia. Now, even like the class that I'm teaching, students just send me something on Google Chats to find out, to ask for homework, or students sit on Instagram and chat back and forth about what their homework is. So quite different. Okay, the next one. Where did you find the latest news or trending ideas? I don't know if I was very trendy when I was younger, but where did you find the latest news? Oh yeah. Radio, gossiped, newspapers. And now young people are faced with so many different media streams. And we're also faced with media streams too, and trying to find out what is the truth, or what is the actual truth that might be out there. Okay, and the next one, Annie. How did you listen to music or watch movies? Okay. Went to the movie theater, record player. I used to rent a VCR from 7-Eleven, and then also VHS tapes, rent those. And then of course there's the little 33s and the 45s where now we just download everything. Okay, the next one, Jennifer, or sorry, Annie. Where did you hang out with your friends? Okay. So like the park, I hung out with my friends at the arcade as we'd spend quarters putting it in to play Pac-Man or Galactica. Now it seems like students, younger people hang out with friends online. They might be hanging out on their own, but feel they're actually with someone by using different social media platforms. Okay, and the next one, Annie? Okay, and so this is what it was like 15 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, but now it's quite different as we move to living in the 21st century. Okay, so I think Jennifer, this is where, or Annie, this is where you take over for a little bit. Oh no, there's this one too. So, you know, the quote on here, using technology, we don't build walls around swimming pools, we teach children to swim. So the school has taken the focus of embracing technology as it is and not limiting technology. Some schools may ban phones at school, but we're trying to teach students how to use technology appropriately in whatever setting that they're in. So as soon as you move from school and you go to university or in a job, you have to be able to know how to manage yourself in what is acceptable in using technology such as your phone while you're at work or when you're not at work. And so our goal at AISD is to help students understand how to use technology appropriately given the setting.
I'll just pick up there, Rob. You know, we really want our students to be critical consumers and know what kind of information they're trying to find and what is legitimate information, how they can contribute and use their voice positively. So that's really what our AUP policy is. You have seen the acceptable use policy. It was provided at the very beginning of the year to you, and it was provided to your student or to our students at the beginning of the year too. They signed it, and we really value this. We take it seriously, and we spend a great deal of time in class sharing different lessons. So as I go through this, I'll just say that most of the things that we're going to share here are specific lessons that we talk to our students about regularly. So if you need a copy of that, I'm happy to provide it. It's on our website. So part of this responsibility is our personal responsibility. How is a student asked to use technology responsibly? And I am constantly reminding students that what they post and share, their digital footprint is really permanent. So we remind them to check their settings and make sure that what they share is really what they want to share. I help them learn how to check all the settings in their accounts. I hope that they understand how to use appropriate language while they're online. And even if they think that it's something funny, it can really be easily misunderstood when it's online. So we ask students to remind them to never take or share photos without permission, really consider the words that they choose when they post. And then another thing that we talk about is taking and sharing photos. Anything that's nude or obscene or pornographic is definitely not something we condone or ask for at school. And we have to take that seriously. And we tell the students that there could be serious consequences with that. A big thing that I am always saying is, you know, we always are trying to protect and respect others. And it's really easy to be mean behind a screen. It's easy to harass. It's easy to make things viral. Sometimes people can be mean and they say things online that they would never say face to face or in a tweet. So we want to make sure that we remind students that a text or a comment or an image, it can reach a really wide audience very quickly. We want to make sure that they understand and recognize what harassment looks like. It's when it singles out an individual or insults a group of people. Sometimes kids don't even realize it. So we want to make sure that we call it what it is. It's harassment. Sometimes we call it bullying or cyberbullying, but it's really a form of harassment. So how can students respect and protect others? I'm going to have to go into present mode for this one and make the screen a little bigger, if you can bear with me 2 seconds. Oh, come on, Mr. Screen. Oh, come on. There we go. So one of the things we talk about is what is harassment, what is discrimination. You know, it's threats, it's bullying, it's trolling, it's name calling, but it also can be sexting or texting, and that, let me do this. It can be things like a gender slur. It can be commenting and saying something is just a joke. It can be insensitive comments to religious groups. It can be fanning digital drama, you know, playing into it, passing it along, forwarding it. It can be crude comments on YouTube. It can be intentionally leaving kids out of a group. It can be anti-LGBTQ comments. It can be nude or lewd photos or anything taken in the locker room. It can be racial slurs. It can be recording private conversations without consent of the other person. So it's really important that the kids can see it and what it really means to them. Put that back again. So how can we recognize this behavior in our children, with their friends, when they're over at your house, when they're talking on the phone? How can you recognize it? You know, it's good to expect respect and discuss expectations with your family. You know, make sure they understand what it means to communicate on a digital platform. Your kids feel really comfortable on devices, and sometimes they text disparaging comments, and sometimes they overshare. Sometimes they say things that they were angry about and they could regret it. And so it's really important to talk to your kid about what it means to have acceptable and appropriate behavior. You know, another thing is to just teach empathy. We want to make sure that we remind them there is another person on the other side of that screen. We're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be an upstander, but what is an upstander? A person that stands up for others. I think I ended up, and I'll come back to that. And then don't be afraid to check their accounts. So what is an upstander? We remind students to protect and respect others and defend others when they see it. And this is what studies are showing, is that this is the best way to address cyberbullying and harassment online. So asking them to speak up and stand up and say something. So what can you do if you see someone, if you want to be an upstander, if you see someone that's a victim, if you feel like your child is a victim? Harassment can really hurt, and it's difficult to kind of address, but it's important that you don't retaliate. It may feel good to reply in the heat of the moment, but it's really important that you don't. If you feel like you're a victim, or your child's a victim, or a friend is a victim, don't block the user right away. First of all, report and flag all inappropriate comments on the site. That means going to the little red flag and reporting it to the administration. And then take screenshots with dates. We need the dates, you need the pictures as much as you possibly can. Save every thread and every piece of content you possibly can. And then you want to contact the appropriate parties. Sometimes you can have a counselor work with you or at the school or a teacher, and they can maybe have intervention with the other students and make sure that they understand what's going on. And then finally, the last thing you can do is block them. It's just important that students know, you know, we all love social media. We love to text and chat. We love to create and forward memes. And we just want to remind our students that we need to use our voices for good. We need them to connect to issues that they find important. We want them to seek and learn outside the classroom. We want them to use their voice on social media to speak powerfully about issues that they really care about. And remember that sometimes the best idea is just to put the device down. Some of the other parts of the AUP policy include our email and communication safety. So we expect respect while we're online and communicating. Parents are sometimes unclear about our school expectations. So things are out of our line of sight. We don't really know what we're expecting, but we have all our academic meetings during school time, in meets, in email communication. So we are not hosting late night chats with your students. We are not hosting group meets and things like that unless they're an activity in the evening. We encourage our students to remain focused during instruction time. So there are very, very few classes, if any, that require them to text or message or chat during class. Sometimes there's specific permission for a teacher if they're asking them to do something, that's usually in the meet. So if a student's using their phone during class, it's discouraged. I ask my kids to put their phones in another room, in desk drawer, turn them off, shut them down, and just help them find a quiet place to work and help them to encourage them to really stay focused. It's hard. And at school, we do filter internet content at school for some kinds of words. So we can try to monitor it, but that's when we're not on our school Wi-Fi, it's very difficult.
Hey, Miss Annie, can I just jump in there to talk about, since we're in virtual school learning, we're encouraging students not to have their phone with them unless there are some things where the teacher might say, yes, use your phone for this Kahoot or this other assignment, but it's very distracting for students. So the school's message is not to have the phone, students not to have their phone with them while they're online in class.
Yeah, good. Sometimes a teacher feels, well, sometimes students ask if they can record meetings and things like that. It's very difficult to do that for a teacher. So we ask that recording a teacher, it may seem necessary because you want to do it, you want to review it later, but the teacher will record it. They will post it in a place that's safe. Remember that there should be no unauthorized recording or picture taking during class. And this includes any online classes like capturing students' faces or things like that in a class that is respecting and protecting others' privacy. During virtual school, we're building a community and we're learning through Meet. So we use Meet because it's very protected and it's very safe. And we have strict protocols for video conferencing. And to keep everyone safe, students should never share Meet links. We don't invite people from outside of AISD.org to our meets unless the teacher grants permission to that meet, and they would invite them and they would let them in. We ask students sign into their school accounts for that reason, so we know who they are. And then we also ask that students don't really need to set up their own whole class meet or large group meets. It's a privacy thing. So the teacher will set up the large meets for evening events and the students can join accordingly. And the teacher will be able to keep the recording then and manage it, and just makes it a little safer for everyone. And then being a digital citizen means also when not to use your technology. It's understanding that when devices are appropriate and when they're not. Anytime you're on campus, you'll see these signs on all our bathrooms and locker rooms. Bathrooms and locker rooms are specific places where people deserve privacy. And so we restrict all devices in locker rooms. Students are instructed to end calls before they enter and not hold any calls while they're in a locker room or bathroom. And I always say to the kids, if you get a call, don't answer it. And of course, if there's never taking any photos or video in a locker room of any kind. And all phones just need to be tucked away. They need to be safely stored in a backpack so they don't get stolen or swiped. And that's just as a way to respect and protect all others while we're in school. So I have a quick poll, and Jennifer, I think, is going to go through it. Let me set it up. Jennifer, do you have the text, Jennifer, to put it in, or you want me to?
I just put it into the chat, Annie.
Great.
The link.
Great.
So the idea with this poll is that we have a few questions that we would like you to answer. The idea with this is to get a sense of what our parent community is talking to students about. What are the conversations that you're having with your kids at home? And then this also gives us some information as to what types of conversations we can have with you in the future, what types of conversations we can have with students at school. One of the things that we like to do is ensure that any digital citizenship presentations that happen with students are also ones that we're having with parents also. And so we'll give you a couple of minutes to activate the survey. You're able to use the link here or use your phone to access. And then you're answering a question with either yes or no, based on what the, the topics are that come up here. So the first question is about sharing photos. Have you talked to your kids about sharing photos of themselves or oversharing personal information? And what's neat about this is we'll be able to see the number of the percentages of parents who have or have not had conversations about these themes as we go through.
Ready?
So our results are popping in now. It's cool. Wow. So as we are working through digital citizenship topics in middle school, the idea of students' digital footprint, what information they should be sharing, and issues regarding their own privacy are all things that we have talked to students about before. So that's interesting. It's a nice bridge to a conversation that you could be having with your kids at home. So the next question, have you discussed privacy, tagging, and uploading pictures of others? So slightly different, again, pictures, but talking about the uploading and then the tagging of others in photos that they may or may not upload.
One of the things we talk about in digital citizenship is how to set your settings in your social media so that you know when you're tagged and giving permission to be tagged.
Huh. So this one is split down the middle. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So questions about cyberbullying and digital drama, have you had those with your child in terms of, have you seen this going on? What might cyberbullying look like? What might digital drama be? Are you involved? Maybe some of a student's feelings surrounding those topics. Okay, so this one is interesting. You can see our results changing as we're watching it. So digital drama and social meanness is something that we will be addressing in middle school, in advisory, as we're talking about digital citizenship in the next few weeks. So some of the digital drama comes into that social meanness aspect also. Okay, and our next question, do you talk about balance? Do you talk about time away from the screen versus time online? 100%. This is one that as parents, I feel like we talk about the difference between one 60-minute conversation and 60 one-minute conversations. This conversation about balance might not even be a total of 1 minute, but it seems like it's something that doesn't happen 60 times, but every day. You know, what are you going to do to take a break? How long have you been on? What is the, thing that you're doing for your own personal wellness? What sort of exercise are you having? What are the ways that you're engaging with people away from the computer? You know, I feel like this is something that we as parents are talking to our kids about, pretty much daily. So if you are having those conversations, are you speaking about the behaviors that are appropriate online? So we talked a lot at the beginning about, what friendship might have looked like back in the day, what, getting help might have looked like back in the day. But when you have conversations with your kids, are you talking about what those behaviors look like? And so, what does friendship look like online? What does, being someone's, niece or nephew or grandchild, what are the things that, you share with, your family WhatsApp chat? And so, enunciating or articulating for students what some of those behaviors might look like. That look like that's a popular one too. This is an interesting one. So when students are online and when they're playing games, talking to different people, when they say so-and-so is a friend, is that something that you check up on? Do you know if the people that they claim are their friends, in video games are people that they know? I always ask my kids if the person that they're talking to that they think is a friend is not, someone from some random country with maybe like some random age who has a random name. Do you actually know who these people are? And I'm just trying to give an awareness of what dangers strangers could cause for students online. And then finally, have you reviewed your child's privacy settings on social media and other accounts such as YouTube? This is an interesting one. I think this is an interesting conversation to have with your kids also. I know this is one that I haven't had with my own kids. And so, kind of digging into it is maybe a lesson for all of us. What do those privacy settings look like?
I think that's it, Jennifer. I think those are the.
Okay. Great.
So it just takes me a second to get back to our presentation.
Yep. Thanks for participating in our poll, everyone. It gave us some good information. So one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about too is how to create a family plan for technology. And so what we have here is a couple of links to different websites. Common Sense Media is a site that we use a lot with students. And so providing that resource for you on our website is something that, we will share with you. The idea is that the family plan also coincides with the information that students receive at school as part of our digital citizenship presentations. So if you want to go to the next slide, any of these resources we'll share with you later. So, you know, in terms of talking about balance, one of the things that, you know, we can do is set goals for ourselves and make changes. And, you know, it seems appropriate right now to talk about goal settings. You know, we're just in the beginning of a new year. And so lots of times what people do is they do, you know, set goals and make changes. And so one of the things that you can do on your phone is check your screen time. And I know Annie has an interesting story about checking screen time that she's used with her kids. And just in terms of, you know, what does it look like? How much time are students spending online? And, you know, if you were to quantify that, is it a number that you feel represents that idea of balance? Or, you know, is it something that is alarming that then requires you to maybe set goals for a more balanced lifestyle? Annie, I'll let you talk about the next slide.
Yeah, I don't know if let me see if I can do it this way. This way. So I have been using, what we're looking at school is something called Q Studio, and I've talked a little bit about it before, but what it is it's a software that you purchase, and then you install it on your child's phone and computer. I would say that, and then what it does is it provides a lot of information. So there's a lot of ways that you can do it. I know I receive a lot of emails from, can you turn YouTube off for my kid? Can you make sure my kid can't video chat during, use Discord during class? Somebody else asked me one time, can you stop them from playing video games during school time? So those are things that I can't actually do, but Q Studio can actually do that. So basically when you log into Q Studio, you get a choice of what you want to allow and not allow. And what I did is, you know, I just use it to, I trust my kids, I really do. And I want them to learn to swim. I don't want to not let them learn. So what I did was just to let this run for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I looked at the information that I got and I realized, wow, you know, I can't believe that we're spending 16 hours a day on Discord. I was really shocked because I know my kids are good students and they're working hard. And so what I did was I printed out the data and I shared it with my kids. And I said, hey, did you realize you're on this long? What can you do? What kind of changes can you make? Let's set some settings. Let's set some time. Let's set some boundaries. And now we're in a place where we have the data and we're letting them make some choices. Now, I'm pretty sure my kids will make the right choices, but I also got to see that they were receiving text messages late at night. Whether they were responding to them or not, I can tell, but they were, they're getting them. And, you know, I think it's important that they understand that we know. And things like at the beginning, we said, you know, when we wanted to meet friends, my parents could see where I was. They could see my friends. And now everything's online. It's very difficult. So this has really helped my family. We're understanding what we can do, what our boundaries are. And then if she can't, or my children can't make those choices, then there are a lot of choices I can make in the software. I can limit the time that they have Wi-Fi. I can limit the time they have phone data. I could limit any kinds of sites that I felt uncomfortable with if they were using any kind of, I would hate to think porn sites or anything like that, but it would limit the time that they're allowed to be on social media networks. It has a lot of filters and dials that you can turn. So it's been helpful in just helping us understand and start to be in control. Jennifer?
Thank you. Yeah, that was great. Again, I think the key to this situation is that we are able to have conversations with our students at school, and we are continuing to, you know, give students lessons about digital citizenship at school. And then the home partnership is the chance that you would have at the dinner table, or maybe you're in the car, or maybe after you've gone for a bike ride with your child, having those conversations about their digital lives and also about your own digital lives. So in terms of making the choice to set goals, I know that for myself, it's something that I am constantly thinking about. Getting up and taking a walk, getting up and moving away from the computer, and really trying to be conscious of what is the best time that I spend in front of the computer, and then what does that look like over the course of the day. So the idea that we're role models for our children is certainly something that we can keep in mind as we go through our days. If you want to go to the next slide, please. Mm-hmm. So we have a couple of more resources that we wanted to share with you. Podcasts are something that, are really interesting for us to be doing, say, when we're walking or when we're exercising, or, maybe tidying up around the house, doing dishes. And National Public Radio is one that is a favorite, as is Teaching Tolerance. So these two podcasts that we have here. Their Own Devices is a new one to me, but Teaching Tolerance, again, is a resource that we use for advisory. So we do use that with the resources from Teaching Tolerance with your kids also. And so again, these will be available. And this presentation will be available through the Tiger Tribune. And we also have the Tuesdays at 2 recordings on recordings and the presentations themselves, the PowerPoints, on our website. And so any of the resources that you're interested in digging into a little bit further can be found on our website and in the recording and in the PowerPoint form. So the next thing that we wanted to do was open for questions. So when we have Tuesday at 2 presentations, I realize it's Tuesday, it's not 2, like Mr. Doyle said. We were hoping that 7 o'clock was a time that was convenient for more parents. And one of the things that we want to make sure that we have time for on Tuesdays at 2 is a few minutes for questions. And so we wanted to open it up for questions now. And so what we do is just have people unmute themselves and then, pose a question. And then if we can answer it, we'd be happy to answer your questions. Okay, so we have a question in the chat. Who do we reach out to if our kids are facing harassment by someone at school? The first person that a student could reach out to is their counselor. They could also reach out to their advisor. We talk to students about that trusted adult. It could be a teacher. It could also be their principal. The idea is that, communication between the student and someone at school is really important. If it was something that a student wanted to have their parents with, we could arrange, to have a Google Meet also. So there's a couple of ways that students could reach out. Mr. Doyle, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think that's part about being open, standing up and saying, this is happening. There's also sometimes students may not know what it means to be harassed. So if there's any doubt about what's going on, is to talk with that trusted adult in terms of bringing the conversation to the counselor or to the principal or that teacher to talk through it, to say, well, this is what's happening. Is my interpretation of it correct? And then we can help out and help the student through it.
Any other questions? if you do have questions, I'm sure you can reach out to Jennifer and Rob or myself. We're happy to help with anything. So the last part of our presentation is just to leave you with this kind of an exit ticket, just a thought of taking a look at this graph and the data that it shows. You know, what kinds of things do you notice? What kinds of places are people feeling good about themselves, and when do they start feeling unhappy? And where can you make some changes in your behavior modeling, and what can you suggest to your child? I noticed when I was looking at it that it seemed like the more things that people were happiest about or had the smallest amount of unhappiness was when they were listening to music and taking pictures and on their, on their music and Spotify and things like that. That's where they were getting joy. So maybe we have to find, not all screen time is bad screen time. Sometimes it's finding the things that are bringing you joy. I don't see podcasts on here.
That might be old school, Miss Annie. I don't know.
I don't know. I like it. So I'm going to just end with, I really appreciate everybody's time coming and joining us. And, obviously, if people have questions, you can stay online and ask. I'll stay online a few minutes longer, but the rest of us, good night and thanks for your time, and we'll see you online.
Thank you, Annie, for organizing the presentation and organizing the resources. And Mr. Doyle, thank you for joining us Tuesdays at 2 at 7 o'clock at night. Thank you, Mr. Herrera, also for being here. And parents, any feedback you wanted to give us in terms of timing, if 2 is better or if 7 is better, that would be great feedback also. So please do reach out if you have some feedback or some information for us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us this evening.
Night.